Hi guys, welcome back to TomTalks, and today we are going to be reacting to the England World Cup squad announcement, and I've got some things to say about it. There will be a men's football roundup at the start of June. As you'll know from my women's football video, I'm on holiday from Sunday, so I won't be able to do it then. It will be after then. That won't include this. There might be a bit of World Cup talk, but it won't include this. So this will be the only one where I'm talking about this topic. But it's been announced. It's caused a lot of controversy, and I'm going to give my thoughts. So let's go straight into it. Jordan Pickford, Dean Henderson and James Trafford are the goalkeepers who have been named, and yeah, I don't think there's much to argue here. Jordan Pickford has been a reliable number one for England. He's had a good season at Everton. Dean Henderson has been good for Palace. And James Trafford, has not played a lot at City, but he's helped them win 2 trophies as their cup goalie. And, he's the third choice at the end of the day. And I think realistically, Nick Pope and Aaron Ramsdale haven't been great enough to get that third spot. So I think in terms of the goalkeepers, yeah, I'm fine with that. Defensively, though, is where things get a little bit interesting. So, centre-backs, we are taking John Stones, Mark Gehi, Ezri Konsa, Dan Burn and Jarrell Kwanzaa. Now, Mark Gehi obviously is going to go. He has been another fantastic season for him at City. He's won a trophy there. He played a big part in them, taking Arsenal all the way. Has made some mistakes, but he's overall by far our best centre-back. Ezri Konsa has been good for Villa. I don't think he's been amazing, but he is still a very solid defender, so he should definitely go. But the other 3, I think, is where we need to look into things. So Jarrell Kwanzaa has been good for Bayer Leverkusen. He's got 5 goals. If you look at his FOTMOB rating, it's pretty solid, around a 7. If you look at some of our other centre-backs, I'm not mad at him getting in there personally. The main question, I think, is around the other 2, which is John Stones and Dan Burn. John Stones, I think in particular, because he's barely played for City this season. He's barely been involved. I know he's experienced. I know he's played at these big tournaments, and obviously Thomas Tuchel likes him. But he's barely played, and I feel like taking him isn't really necessary, personally. I think Mark Gehi has got experience. There's another player who I'll come on to has got experience. So I think really John Stones, considering the lack of game time he's had, shouldn't be going. And Dan Burn, he's not been great for Newcastle, has he, this season? And also, as I said, there's going to be a player we come on to who kind of fits the Dan Burn mould, but has had a much better season. Dan Burn has played for a Newcastle team who's not been great this year. So, for me, him going is a bit of an odd choice. In terms of some of the other centre-backs, I think the big one is obviously Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire has had a fantastic season for Man United. He has played a big part in us returning to the Champions League. He's been really solid at the back. And I don't know why he's not going. I think as well his ability to take the ball forward is something that we could have used in the team. Even if he's not starting, I think he's a very good player and he should have gone. In terms of other centre-backs, Levi Colwill, I think, is one that people have mentioned. And obviously, he's had his issues with injuries this season, but when he's played for Chelsea, he's come back into the Chelsea. I think it probably was a bit late for him to come back into the Chelsea team after his injury, to be honest. I think Trevor Chalobah has probably been also too inconsistent. He got a call up in November as well. But Fikayo Tomori has missed out. And if you look at his stats, he's had a pretty solid season for AC Milan, a team who is probably going to get Champions League football again, who didn't play in Europe, I must say. And you've got to say that he's been consistently pretty solid. So, for me, I feel like Tomori and Maguire should probably be getting in there ahead of Burn and Stones, personally. I think, Stones on his day is probably a better defender than Tomori. But like Maguire should definitely be getting there ahead of Dan Burn. But I think Maguire really is the big one where you look at that and go, why is he not going? I don't understand. Fullbacks wise, Reece James is one of the best right backs in the world, and he's managed to stay fit, so I think that's fair enough. Tino Livramento hasn't really been playing all the time for Newcastle, but I think he's a solid fullback, and he still has been very good. I think Nico O'Reilly, of course, has been one of the stars of the Manchester City team this season, so I think you have to take him as another one of our fullbacks. But Jed Spence is going, and Jed Spence has been, if we look at his FOTMOB stats, he hasn't been great for Spurs this season. There has been he has been decent, but there has been a lot of poor performances, a lot of inconsistent performances. And he's playing for a team who are probably going to potentially get relegated. And I think if you look at, some of the other options there, I think Lewis Hall has been very good for Newcastle this year. I think you take him. As much as I think he is not amazing, I would take Luke Shaw over Jed Spence personally. I think he's been solid for United. He's stayed fit. He's can offer something in attack and defence. I know he's not played a lot, but I would take Miles Lewis-Skelly over Jed Spence personally. I think he's a better player. And then Trent Alexander-Arnold not going. I think he's not been amazing for Real Madrid, and I think he's not good enough defensively for the way Tuchel plays, so I can understand him not going. I mean, Kyle Walker's obviously retired. Ben White is injured. I think Ben White probably would have gone, even though he's been a bit iffy for Arsenal this season. But I think realistically, Lewis Hall should be going ahead of Jed Spence, really. And I think that is another very odd decision by the manager. Defensively, I think Maguire and Lewis Hall missing out are the big ones there, and I'm a bit perplexed as to what else they had to do. But yeah, we'll carry on. Midfield wise, he's taking Jordan Henderson, Declan Rice, Kobbie Mainoo and Elliot Anderson are like the sort of central box-to-box defensive midfield types. Declan Rice has been very good for Arsenal. He's been one of the pivotal players in their team this year, so obviously that's fair enough. Kobbie Mainoo has been fantastic for United since coming back into the team, so he had to go. Elliot Anderson has been brilliant for Nottingham Forest, and he's probably going to earn himself a big move in the summer. But Jordan Henderson, he's been decent for Brentford this year, but he's not really been that involved in the team, and I feel like there are more pivotal players in that team. I get his experience and his leadership qualities, but I think taking him is a little bit of a waste, to be honest. I mean, if you look at who has missed out as a result, James Garner has obviously had a fantastic season for Everton. He has been one of the best defensive midfield players in the league. Adam Wharton has obviously been fantastic for Palace this year. I think he'll be unlucky not to go. I think, obviously, Curtis Jones and Conor Gallagher haven't quite been good enough to get in the team this year, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek obviously isn't the player he once was. Alex Scott, I think he's more of a box-to-box player, and I think Declan Rice and Kobbie Mainoo get in just ahead of him personally. But I think really Garner or Wharton should be going ahead of Henderson, really. They have something to offer. They can come off the bench and change the game a bit. I think that's a mistake by the manager. And then in terms of the attacking midfielders, they've gone with Eberechi Eze, Morgan Rogers and Jude Bellingham. Now, obviously, Bellingham is a fantastic player. It's a bit of a no-brainer there. Rogers has obviously had another very good season with Villa. Eberechi Eze is a talented player, but if we're being honest, Morgan Gibbs-White should be going ahead of him. He's had a fantastic season when it comes to goals and assists. He's been one of the best midfielders in the Prem this season, a pivotal part of Forest getting to the Europa League semi-finals and staying up. And I like Eze. He plays well for England. He's a very talented player. He can also play on the wing as well. But I think Morgan Gibbs-White has to go ahead of Eze for me personally. So I feel very sorry for Morgan Gibbs-White. I think he's had a fantastic season, and the fact Eze's going ahead of him is very disappointing. Cole Palmer, I think, and Phil Foden can't really hold too much of a grudge. They've both had disappointing seasons, particularly Foden. He's been very poor this year. So I don't think those two can really argue about not being included. But again, you know, I think Eze going ahead of Gibbs-White is less egregious than some of the other decisions here. But if you look at who has been the better player this season, it's very clear it's been Gibbs-White. And then up front, in terms of the wingers, we've gone with Rashford, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka, Anthony Gordon and Noni Madueke. I mean, Rashford's had an excellent season for Barcelona. His goals and assists speak for themselves. Bukayo Saka hasn't had a great season for Arsenal, but he's a very talented player, and I think he's done just about enough to get in that team. Anthony Gordon, Noni Madueke. I mean, for me, Noni Madueke is not good enough to be in this England squad. He's not been great for Arsenal. He's clearly a talented player, but you're telling me that Jared Bowen doesn't get in ahead of him? Like, Jared Bowen has been fantastic for West Ham this year, and I think, yes, he's not been amazing when he's played for England, but I feel like he offers more of a goal threat, and he's somebody to bring off the bench and to do something for me. So to not include Jared Bowen, I think, is a bit harsh, especially with how poor Madueke has been this season. And I mean, they've both only got one goal for England each. There's not a drastic difference there. Harvey Barnes or Gordon, I think, you know, Gordon and Barnes have both been decent for Newcastle this year. I think one or the other. It's one of those ones where you go, you know, Gordon, I suppose, has a bit more experience with England. Harvey Barnes is a talented player, though. Maybe he should have declared for Scotland, but he's slightly unlucky, I think. But I think that's a 50-50 one for me. I think Gordon getting in over Barnes isn't crazy. And then in terms of the strikers, we've gone with Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney. Harry Kane, obviously, is one of the best players in the world. He has to go. Ollie Watkins is inconsistent, but he's had a very nice purple patch at the end of the season for Villa, and he's proven that he can have an impact in big moments. And in terms of Ivan Toney, I mean, Dominic Solanke hasn't been great this season, and I think he's injured as well. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think, is a talented player. He has had a good season, but he didn't impress in that game. And like, Ivan Toney has like over 40 goals in the Saudi League this year, which is very impressive. Admittedly, obviously, it's a worse league than the Prem. And Calvert-Lewin should feel a little bit unlucky, but I think Ivan Toney has proven in the England squad before that he can have an impact. So it's a difficult one, but I think because of the amount of goals he's got, and I think Toney getting in isn't the end of the world, although he hasn't played much under Tuchel, so I'm interested to see how he uses him, to be honest. And also Toney's only got the one goal for England in 7, whereas Calvert-Lewin has 4 in 12. But yeah, there's a few decisions here which I'm just a bit baffled by. I think Maguire not going, I think Lewis Hall not going, I think Wharton not going, I think Gibbs-White not going, and I think Jared Bowen are like the key ones really. I think these players are on form, they've had good seasons, they're talented individuals, and they can offer us something on the bench. Because if you look at the probable starting 11 for England, it's Pickford in goal, Reece James, Gehi, Konza or Stones, and probably Nico Riley. Then you have a midfield three of like Declan Rice, Elliot Anderson and Morgan Rogers, I reckon. And then up front it's Saka, Kane and Rashford. And that's a good first 11. You know, that first 11 is going to cause problems. It's got pace, it's got width, it's got good footballing ability. That's a decent little team. But then if you look at the bench, like Ollie Watkins is somebody good to bring off the bench, but like Gordon and Madueke, I feel like Bowen would be a better option to bring off the bench. I think in terms of our midfield, like Jude Bellingham can obviously do something, so can Kobbie Mainoo, but can Henderson? I feel like Adam Wharton would offer a lot more off the bench than Henderson. I mean, bringing Harry Maguire on to get a goal would be big instead of like, you know, John Stones or Dan Burn. And like, you know, if James gets injured, or, you know, I feel like Jed Spence, is he really a great option? I don't know. I think this is a decent squad. And I think, you know, we have a very good first 11. I just feel like there's a few players here. Like, imagine bringing Gibbs White off the bench, bringing Bowen off the bench, bringing Maguire off the bench. Just these players who can change a game, who can have an impact. Even like bringing like Miles Lewis-Skelly off the bench. I think there's been a few mistakes here by Tuchel, and maybe I'll be wrong. And if I am wrong and England win the tournament, I'll hold my hand up and say, you know what, fair enough. But I don't know about some of these decisions, really. But I guess we'll see what happens. But I will say some of the decisions I think are fair enough, like not taking Palmer or Foden, are probably the two that I'd say, yeah, fair enough. They've not been good enough. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the England squad. Let me know yours in the comments below. What would you change? What would you keep the same? Do you think you disagree with anything I've said? Let me know. Until next time, folks, this has been another TomTalks.